how do you view this? So we were worried, and actually it was really reflected immediately in the price of oil, that this was a significant escalation. But then Iran said actually this may not come from Saudi Arabia.
I just think we don't have any information right now, because there's also been a lot of contradictory statements from Iran itself about which ship has been attacked and whether it's been missiles and so on and so forth. So I think we have to wait for further explanation from both sides, really. I mean, it's definitely from Iran, that they need to come out and tell the world exactly what's happened and the state of the tanker.
So, Amrita, do we just need to get used to more disruptions, though? I mean, there's been quite a lot of disruption over the last 6 weeks.
For sure. I think that's the bit that amazes me about the oil price, because right now the oil price has zero, absolutely zero geopolitical risk premium, and the market's extremely complacent. There's so much focus on the recession and the global economy. Nobody's taking into account that there's practically no spare capacity in this market. U.S. production growth is slowing significantly, and you've got OPEC production down by nearly 4 million barrels per day year on year right now.
Yeah, if anything, oil prices seem to be moving more on sentiment surrounding the trade war, or the improved sentiment of late. Absolutely. Is there any way for OPEC to make oil prices more resistant to every twist and turn in things like the trade war, and more responsive to supply and what they can do on that front?
I think, and that's the kind of conundrum. It's a great question that you ask, because the supply situation and the tightness is being reflected in the differentials in the market and in the spreads. You know, every crude is backwardated right now, and we've had that pretty much all throughout the year. So the physical market is reflecting that, and that's why in some ways backwardation is something that OPEC desires, keeps the back end low, prevents shale producers from hedging significantly. So they have achieved that. The problem with price, the issue with the trade war isn't the trade war in itself, but the uncertainty around, you know, are we going to have 5% tariff? Is it going to be 25%? It changes every hour. And I think that's what's really forcing firms to pull back CapEx. And I don't think OPEC can do anything really to change that, because it's that, I mean, markets don't deal well with uncertainty. You know that as well, right? I think that's the problem OPEC has that it's dealing with right now.
Absolutely. And we've seen oil prices go from above 80, I'm looking at Brent here, to as low as $50 in the span of 3 months in the fourth quarter of last year. Mm-hmm. Is that the range that oil is destined to be stuck in right now as we deal with all these different headwinds? It's a pretty wide range.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's a huge range, as you say. I mean, if the supply picture is only what you're looking at, prices should be at least $75, $80, just the sheer amount of supply outages. And even Ecuador, for instance, production there is down quite sharply over the last few days. The problem is demand growth has slowed down quite significantly. And I think the worry is that could you actually lurch into a significantly, you know, big recession, which then leads to outright demand declines? I don't think we're there. Not just yet, but I don't think we're going to go there. But I think that's very much the fear. And that's why we are oscillating between like a 5 handle and an 8 handle.
Amrita, do we need to start modeling a possible war in the Middle East? I know, you know, both Iran and Saudi Arabia said that's not what they want.
I don't think so. I do think both sides want to de-escalate, and I definitely don't think the U.S. wants to get dragged into this either. Of course, the risk of miscalculation is high, and I think that's where you can actually see something big happening. But no, other than that, yes, you are likely to get more outages, likely to see more attacks like the ones we've seen today, or even on the 14th of September at OPEC. But I still don't think the probability of outright war in the Middle East is high.